a rupees 20 trillion stimulus for the Indian economy, as announced by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a televised address last Tuesday, is unprecedented in the country's history. To put things in perspective, this mammoth figure is 10% of the size of India's gross domestic product. Such a financial boost at a point of time when Asia's third-largest economy, like most other countries around the globe, is reeling from a body blow inflicted by the coronavirus pandemic is indeed timely and constitutes a much-needed panacea, given the macroeconomic ramifications of a near-total shutdown of the country for 50 days and still counting. Job losses, pay cuts, unpaid leaves, stoppage in manufacturing and farming activities are all set to have a severe impact on the nation's annual growth rate, which, even according to very modest estimates, is likely to plunge below 5% during the quarter. So, given the circumstances, there is no denying the fact that a stimulus package of the size as announced by the Indian PM is a stitch in time. There can't be any debate on the intent behind such a move. However, there are some areas of concern and doubt so far as the execution part is concerned that need to be highlighted, which may be lost in the din of self-congratulatory and even jingoistic bluster that often accompanies such radical policy decisions. The first area of concern is purely mathematical. India's current account deficit for the third quarter of the 2019 to 2020 fiscal stood at $1.4 billion. This is in sharp contrast to the figures for the corresponding period a year ago, when the CAD stood at $17.7 billion. India's balance of payments position underwent a sea change and for the better. But the reason behind such a dramatic shift was not due to any corrective measure per se, but primarily owing to the fact that there was subdued economic activity in the country, following which, India's imports reduced at a faster rate than exports. Now that was before the coronavirus outbreak. In the last 2 months, with manufacturing having already taken a hit due to a prolonged lockdown that started on March 24th, and with market sentiments at a low due to a general macroeconomic slowdown in the country following the outbreak, the trajectory of domestic demand is almost certain to take a plunge in the short to medium term. If these negative sentiments continue for long, then exports are also bound to take a hit, more so, with all of India's export destinations in Europe, North America and the Middle East likely to undergo a significant shrinkage in demand in their respective markets. According to the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, by the end of April 2020, more than 122 million people had lost their jobs in India owing to the coronavirus crisis, 75% of them being small traders and daily wage earners. Citing economic data on May 7, India's The Hindu newspaper reported that average employment in India reduced from around 404 million in the 2019 to 2020 financial year to 282 million last month. Similarly, the India Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index fell to 27.4 in April 2020, from 51.8 in March. All these parameters are bound to have a negative impact on domestic demand that contributes 60% to India's GDP, as the country continues to be the sixth-largest consumer market in the world. Added to these is the fact that India's fiscal deficit for 2019 to 2020 was around Rs 7 trillion, which was 3.3% of its gross domestic product. So, overall, with exports stagnating, unemployment rate rising at a fearsome pace, domestic demand tumbling and manufacturing hitting a roadblock, the moot point is, from where is the state funding for this Rs 20 trillion package going to come? So, is there going to be some mathematical mumbo-jumbo to arrive at that mammoth Rs 20 trillion figure? For instance, let's say one particular nationalized bank announces that in view of the state stimulus package of Rs 20 trillion, it will issue fresh consumer loans to the tune of Rs 1 trillion at a reduced rate of interest. Then, will this Rs 1 trillion be considered as part of the government stimulus package of Rs 20 trillion? Or is this going to be over and above that? And here's a more concrete example of what we are trying to drive at. Federal Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced on Friday a Rs 1.5 trillion stimulus package for the agricultural sector. However, the entire corpus of this Rs 1.5 trillion boost will be funded by the National Bank for Agricultural and Rural Development. The second important aspect that needs to be addressed about the stimulus initiative is the inherent dichotomy in terms of an inherent policy message. In her budget speech earlier this year, both as a huge sop for foreign direct investment (FDI), and also as a policy outreach to boost market sentiments. Sitharaman had proposed the abolition of dividend distribution tax, thereby helping foreign investors looking to repatriate their profits from India to foreign shores. A tax of 20.56% on every rupee earned in India was indeed a major dampener for attracting foreign investments to India. This, combined with reduced tax rates, translated into a significantly less tax burden on foreign investors, thereby making the Indian market a more attractive destination for foreign funds. Now, juxtapose this policy statement with PM Modi's pitch for being vocal for local in his latest address to the nation. While there can be nothing wrong in terms of principle in trying to boost local industries and make an impassioned plea to countrymen to prefer all things Katie, local handloom, over designer brands, the point is that this vocal for local exhortation leaves a lot of room for the PM's pitch to be viewed through the prism of protectionism. It has taken decades for the world's fifth-largest economy to emerge out of a mothballed license permit regime and present a more business-friendly face of the establishment to entrepreneurs from within the country. Likewise, it has taken almost half a century for the country to present a level playing field to enterprises from beyond its shores, by hanging out those open for business signs for global investors to feel secure and confident about India Inc. The big worry now is that in a bid to placate domestic sentiments at a time of grave socio-economic crisis, such as the one we are in right now, will this vocal for local clarion call be misconstrued as an institutional grandstanding for a protectionist era? We will wait and watch for an answer to that.